Pentest Plus Chapter 9, Exploiting Application Vulnerabilities. Applications are often the weakest link in an organization's security. While security teams patch operating systems, applications go unpatched for extended periods. Custom applications have no vendor patches at all, and many are web-based and exposed to the internet, making them attractive targets. Penetration testers understand this and use it to their advantage. Web applications are the go-to starting point for testers and hackers alike. Section 1. Exploiting injection vulnerabilities. Injection vulnerabilities allow attackers to supply code to a web application as input and trick the server into executing it. The primary defense is input validation. The most effective form uses allow listing, where the developer describes exactly what input is expected and rejects anything else. Block listing describes malicious input to block, but it's harder to maintain and easier to bypass. Parameter pollution bypasses validation by sending multiple values for the same parameter, relying on the platform to handle only the first during validation but execute the second. Web application firewalls add another layer sitting in front of the server and validating input before it reaches the application. SQL injection attempts to send commands through a web application to the backend database. When the application doesn't return query results directly, attackers use blind SQL injection. Boolean-based blind injection tests whether the application interprets injected code by crafting queries that return true or false conditions. Timing-based blind injection uses database delay commands to extract data character by character, with tools like sqlmap automating the process. Command injection occurs when application code executes operating system commands using user input. An attacker can chain additional commands using special characters like the ampersand. LDAP injection targets directory services similarly to SQL injection. Server-side template injection happens when user input embedded in templates is interpreted as code rather than text. Deserialization attacks manipulate serialized data to execute arbitrary code when the application rebuilds objects from untrusted sources. Section 2. Exploiting authentication vulnerabilities. Passwords are the most common and weakest authentication method. Attackers discover passwords through brute force, social engineering, eavesdropping, credential dumps, and hash collisions. Many systems ship with default credentials that administrators never change. Common defaults include administrator/password, admin/password, and admin/admin. Session hijacking steals an authenticated session rather than credentials. Websites use cookies to manage sessions, and these cookies can be stolen through eavesdropping, malware, or on-path attacks. Session fixation reuses old session IDs that attackers obtain and reactivate. JSON web tokens are popular for authentication but have vulnerabilities. The none algorithm bypass allows unsigned tokens. Weak signing keys can be brute forced. Algorithm confusion attacks change the header from asymmetric to symmetric signing, and expired tokens may be reused if the application doesn't enforce expiration. Kerberos attacks include administrator account compromise, pass the ticket and pass the key attacks, and golden ticket attacks where attackers acquire ticket-granting tickets with extended lifespans for complete system access. Section 3. Exploiting authorization vulnerabilities. Insecure direct object references occur when applications retrieve data based on user-supplied arguments without authorization checks. An attacker simply modifies the argument to access other users' data. Directory traversal uses ... operators to navigate outside the web server's root directory and access system files. File inclusion attacks go further by executing codes stored in files, either locally or remotely. Remote file inclusion is especially dangerous because the attacker controls the code without storing anything on the server. Web shells uploaded through file inclusion provide persistent command execution over HTTP. Arbitrary code execution results from file inclusion, buffer overflows, or command injection, giving attackers full control of the compromised system. Privilege escalation against applications moves from standard user access to administrative privileges. Section 4. Exploiting web application vulnerabilities. Cross-site scripting injects HTML or JavaScript into web pages. Reflected XSS embeds malicious input in links that appear legitimate. Stored XSS persists on the server and affects all users who view the content. DOM-based XSS hides attack code within the document object model. Cross-site request forgery exploits the trust that remote sites have in a user's browser. An attacker embeds commands in one website that send requests to a second site where the user is logged in. Server-side request forgery tricks a server into visiting URLs based on user input, potentially accessing internal systems. Clickjacking uses transparent overlays to trick users into clicking malicious links. Section 5. Unsecure coding practices. Source code comments left in production provide attackers with a roadmap of how code works. Overly verbose error handling can reveal internal details like SQL query structure. Hard-coded credentials create backdoor vulnerabilities and expose API keys. Race conditions, particularly time of check to time of use, occur when permissions are checked too far in advance of resource access. API abuse happens when unprotected APIs allow unauthorized function use. Unsigned code lacks authenticity verification. The OWASP Top 10 includes broken access control, cryptographic failures, injection, insecure design, security misconfigurations, vulnerable and outdated components, identification and authentication failures, software and data integrity failures, security logging and monitoring failures, and server-side request forgery. Section 6. Application testing tools. Static application security testing analyzes source code without executing it, providing white box visibility. Software composition analysis identifies vulnerabilities in third-party libraries and open-source components. Dynamic application security testing executes code with various inputs to evaluate outputs. Interactive application security testing combines static and dynamic by instrumenting running code. Interception proxies like Burp Suite and Z-Attack proxy intercept and manipulate browser traffic. Postman tests API endpoints directly. Fuzzers like doFuzz rapidly generate thousands of input variants. Gobuster and DirBuster discover hidden files, directories, and subdomains. WPScan targets WordPress installations. sqlmap probes database-backed applications for SQL injection. TruffleHog scans code repositories for accidentally committed secrets. Summary. Application vulnerabilities provide fertile ground for penetration testers. Injection flaws, authentication weaknesses, authorization gaps, web application exploits, and unsecure coding practices all create opportunities for attackers. The same tools developers use to test code also serve as powerful reconnaissance tools for penetration testers.